Welcome to Veggie Doctor Radio. I am your host, Dr. Yami, board certified pediatrician, certified lifestyle medicine physician, certified health and wellness coach, author, speaker, mother, wife, and human being. I passionately believe in the power of diet, habits, and mindset in sparking and sustaining well-being and joy in our lives. This podcast combines expert interviews and thoughtful monologues to explore plant-based nutrition, lifestyle medicine, parenting, mindset, and other exciting and fun topics. I hope that these episodes inspire you, uplift you, and equip you with the knowledge and tools to live your best life. Are you ready to get started? Let's do it. Well, hello, veggie lovers. Welcome back to another episode of Veggie Doctor Radio. You're going to love this episode because I loved it. Juana is amazing. So today I have with me Juana Yupangco, and she is doing such amazing things. I am just really impressed, admire her, and very proud of her. But first of all, I want to remind you that the information on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not meant to replace careful evaluation and treatment. So if you have concerns about you or your child's eating, nutrition, or growth, consult a health professional. All right, so let me tell you about Juana. So in 2017, Juana Yupangco founded Mesa ni Misses with the simple mission of wanting more Filipinos to eat more Filipino vegetables. She also found that Filipinos have the highest instances of non-communicable diseases such as heart problems, high cholesterol, diabetes, and high blood pressure. All these diseases are preventable by simply consuming less meat and less packaged food. Juana has since collaborated with top restaurants in Manila to promote the use of local vegetables in their menus. She conducts classes and seminars on plant-based cooking using only the Bahay Kubo vegetables of the Philippines, as these are available all year round. To further her education on plant-based nutrition, Juana completed the plant-based nutrition course at the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. She is currently taking up her master's at the University of Edinburgh in the field of global nutrition and food security, and was the recipient of the Richard Davidson Scholarship Award. In late 2020, she wrote the Mesa ni Misses cookbook, which was awarded Best in the World in the vegetarian category at the 2021 Gourmand Awards. And the book is currently on its second print run. Y'all, this episode is so interesting and fascinating, and we laugh so much, but we learn about Juana's journey into plant-based nutrition, how she did it for herself and her husband, but then her children and the struggles that she's had with her children in plant-based and some of the cultural challenges that she's faced in that area. We also talk about why and how she started the nonprofit Mesa ni Misses, what it's about, how she wrote her book, how it got this amazing award. But we also talk about her master's thesis research into legumes and some interesting health beliefs that are very prevalent in the Philippines, which keep some Filipinos from eating beans. So this is really fascinating and interesting. I think you're going to love this episode. Hopefully I can have Juana back on again someday and we can talk some more about some of these topics, but I know you're going to love it. So thank you all so much for being here, new and old listeners. I appreciate you so much, and we couldn't have this podcast without you. So thank you, and please share it if you think that it would benefit somebody else. And now let's welcome Juana Yupangco. Juana Yupangco, welcome to Veggie Doctor Radio.
Hi, Dr. Yami. Good morning from where I'm from the beautiful Philippines.
Oh, I can't wait to visit someday. And what an honor to talk to you all the way from the Philippines. And, you know, I've been watching your journey over the past couple years, and you've done some amazing things. And we were just chatting recently on Instagram. I was in the UK visiting beautiful Scotland, which I absolutely fell head over heels in love with. And then you mentioned to me that you were doing a master's thesis that had to do with beans, and I was immediately hooked. So I want to talk about that. But before we get to that, I want to start at the beginning. So share with us your plant-based journey how did you even become interested in the power of food for yourself and for your family?
Yeah, about 5 years ago, my husband had a bit of a health scare. And, like years before that, we always try to eat healthy, like organic everything, grass-fed this, the best of that. And it just got really expensive as it does when you're buying these high quality produce, right? And I thought, well, what if we just take out all the meat? I knew that meat was inflammatory. I knew that processed food would cause disease. So I said, why don't we try it? Let's try going vegetarian for a month. So he agreed. And after a month, we did blood work and everything went down. The bad cholesterol went down, his sugar went down, numbers for uric acid went down. So I said, why don't we try removing eggs and milk and let's keep going? And we did. And, he lost weight, he got healthy. I did too. And I said, you know what? I think it works. And from there, I pursued, you know, more knowledge. And that's how I came across you. I took the Colin Campbell course, and I remember you were the very last one on the very last module. And from there, we've just continued. We just haven't stopped. So that's what it is. We got into it for health reasons, and now the whole family is plant-based, including my dog.
Oh, I love it. Oh, my dog is too. And we just started
Yeah.
a whole food dog food called Bramble, and she can't get
Oh,
enough. So, yeah, it's so fun.
they smell better too, right? Like they don't smell like little they don't smell sweaty.
I don't know. I think dogs still smell like dogs, but she's my princess and she sleeps with me. So she can't smell that bad because I am super sensitive to smells. So if she
Right.
smelled that bad, she wouldn't be able to sleep, like literally right next to my face
Oh my
when we're sleeping.
goodness.
Okay. So she's only 6 pounds. So, okay. But I've known you for a few years because you did
Yeah,
reach out to me at the beginning of your journey because you
I
were
did.
concerned about your children. So tell me about what have been your struggles raising plant-based children? Just, stop there, but also with your culture and living in the Philippines.
Mm.
Because I know that when we first started, you brought up to me some concerns, like cultural concerns, and maybe just your family, things that people would bring up. So, what struggles have you had raising plant based children, and what cultural challenges have you encountered?
I think with the kids, the first thing it's ingrained in your head as a parent, your kids need protein to grow. So that's always in the back of my head. Now, I'm very lucky because my kids like beans. They like all sorts of beans, lentils, everything. So I don't have a problem feeding them that. But there's always a nagging feeling at the back of my head, like they're maybe not as tall. And I compare them with cousins and relatives who I know are meat eaters and who have been given formula milk to enhance growth. And I see them like, oh my gosh, they're tall. What if my kids don't catch up to that? Um, I think the struggle is not with my kids. I'm very lucky my kids are quite good. There's some vegetables they absolutely will not touch, but that's fine. We stick to the ones that they do like, and I try introducing later. But the struggle is really me as a parent and always thinking, am I doing the right thing? Is it going to show up when they're in their 20s? And I didn't know. And culturally, that reflects like in family, with friends, when you get together. So you're like, my gosh, are your kids not going to eat meat? Where's the protein from? And I know the answer to that, right? But it's still like, is it enough? So it's that. It's the protein sources like that. That's the struggle that's always in my head. Eating out here in the Philippines, there's not that many vegetarian or vegan restaurants. So we make do what we have. So we go for Asian food, Thai, Chinese, Japanese, where you have a lot of these dishes and we just bring them together and create our own big meal. But yeah, I would say those are the big struggles for me.
Yeah. And I think everything that you've expressed, like, thank you so much for your honesty because that's part of just motherhood, right? Like, we literally worry about every
Yeah.
decision we make for our kids and whether Like I tell moms that we do this like projection into the future, and it's always at least 2 decades ahead. Like whether
Yes.
it's a discipline thing we've decided to do or food or whatever, we go 20 to 30 years ahead and we're imagining our kids like are in jail, they're on the street homeless, they're like whatever. Like why do we
Yes.
do that? It's like,
Yeah.
but I think
Malnutrition.
it's like normal, right? It's normal for us to be concerned about that. But you did say at the beginning before we started recording that your kids are growing quite well. It's been a few years since we've talked about them. And it is one of those things that sometimes you just have to have the support of a community, the support of other people that are also raising their kids this way to help you feel reassured. Tell me a little bit about Filipino culture and meat, because I grew up with Filipino friends, and the food is so
Ah.
good. And I've heard, and I guess witnessed also myself, that it's pretty meat centric. So tell me about that. And like you said, it's a little bit difficult to navigate restaurants, but what about family gatherings and things like that? Is it difficult to find food? You have to always bring your own?
In the beginning, I would always have to bring my own food, including to my own parents' house. They'd be like, "Oh, so I'm preparing lechon, which is a whole roasted pig, and barbecue this and that. What are you guys gonna eat? If just bring your own." Right? So in the beginning, it was like that, and the more that our family saw that no, we're this is not a phase, and we're looking well, the kids are not shriveling up, they started cooking for us. And like it makes people really interested, and it was the same with my friends for about 2 years at all the gatherings. It was like, just bring your own food, we don't know what you want to eat. And now it's to the point that they're like, I tried a new vegan caterer, so she's going to cater the meal, and it's just become accepted and more normal. So I think that also goes with the trend that you're seeing worldwide, where there's more plant-based options for everything. We've got burgers, chicken, plant-based everything now, and people are becoming more open to that. So I'd say the difference between now and 5 years ago is huge,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of acceptance and being able to find options. Now, in terms of Filipinos and meat, we love pork here. There's pork in everything. So even if you order vegetables out in a restaurant, there's bits of pork. Culturally, like, our dishes don't really center around a lot of vegetables. We have one mung bean dish, and that's it. And the rest is like vegetables with like meat and shrimp. So traditional Filipino food, very, very meaty. I'm sure you tried adobo. I think like Filipino friends, that's what you'd bring.
The
So
egg
it's
rolls, what
it's
are
a
they called? Lu
challenge.
starts with an L. The egg rolls.
Lumpia.
Yeah, God, that was my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah,
They like
lumpia.
my friend's
That
mom
has
would always
pork.
have those ready for me when I would visit. So
That's a
she kind of spoiled
snack,
me a
like
little.
after school snack.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's made with ground up pork inside. And it's good. It's delicious. But there's just pork in everything. We
Hmm.
were pork and fish. And what I found through writing my masteral thesis is that pork is an inelastic item. So even if the prices of pork go up, people will spend up to 10% more on pork just because they want it that bad. There's no thinking, okay, I'll switch to veg. They'll just spend more.
Interesting.
And that's how it is here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about what's been the best part of a plant-based lifestyle for you and your family.
I think it's the health benefits for my kids. So previously they had a lot of eczema, and I discovered this when my son was maybe just 3 days old. He broke out in rashes. His poo was neon green, so I freaked out and called the my pediatrician, and he said, "You should stop eating eggs and chicken and observe your baby." And when I did, the rashes went away, poo became normal, and I thought, well, if my my regular pediatrician, who has been with me for 12 years, knows that eggs and chicken cause a reaction, there's something that they're not telling us, right? Like, why is this like a widely known fact that eggs and chicken cause this, and milk, sorry, cause this kind of reaction. So now I think the best part is seeing everybody with no rashes, no inflammation. My husband and my two kids both have it. And for me, the best part is seeing smooth skin, nothing itchy, because that was really difficult before we became plant-based. I also see that the kids have more energy, long-lasting energy. There's no crashes. Their moods are better. And I know you feel that in yourself when you are plant-based. I can see it. There have been times over my journey that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try, and it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas. I'll have a piece of meat and I'll try it. I'll see, how do I feel? How do I feel? And I can feel it. And I can see the difference. So I think for us, it just feels like a more peaceful, rash-free household.
Nice. That's so beautiful. All right, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your nonprofit, Mesa ni Misis. Is that how you pronounce it? So tell me,
Yes,
first of all, what does
said it
Mesa ni
right.
Misis mean? And how did you start this nonprofit? Why? How did it come about?
So Mesa ni Mrs. means the table of the misses. Here in the Philippines, it's the wives or the women of the
Mm.
house who are the decision makers when it comes to what goes on the table. So it's men. The men will earn money and turn the money over to the wives, and say, okay, you take care of everything. So when my family decided to go plant-based and we were doing it for a couple of years, I thought, if I can't spend so much on broccoli and cauliflower, kale. That's all very expensive here because it's all imported, or if it's not imported, it's grown in like private organic farms, and it's just not accessible to most Filipinos. And then I thought, we have our own set of vegetables that grow here for very cheap, but nobody really, they think of it like that's what you eat if you have no money. That's what people in the provinces eat. But they actually are full of like vitamins and minerals. And I really believe that where you are, like where you're born, and the food, the natural vegetables that are put there by nature are good for you. They cater to you and in your situation. Um, so that's what I thought. Okay, I'm gonna try switching out the broccoli, switching out the spinach for the local stuff that we have here, but keeping the same recipes. So you still have that flavor, because that's what you're looking for when you eat, right? It's that flavor, that umami. So I started experimenting with that, but just slowly switching out things. So we have our own kind of spinach. It's a little slimier here, but I started switching that out. And that was a way to make it more affordable and accessible to all Filipinos, and at the same time promoting the use of our local vegetables that we tend to forget about. Yeah.
Well, I actually downloaded your book on Kindle and I went through the whole thing, and
Oh,
I was
wow.
just fascinated because I love that you said that. I love that you pointed out, hey, broccoli, cauliflower, and spinach are not local here because
No.
people in a certain place, they assume like, oh yeah, it's just where it's everywhere, right? But
Yeah.
reading through, I love how you described all the vegetables, and not only did you describe like the texture and the flavor, but also their nutritional properties. And
Yes.
it was amazing because it's like some of them I had never heard of in my life. Some of them I had because I'm from Panama, so it's a tropical country, and so we have some similarities, but there were some that I had never heard of that were just nutritional powerhouses. And
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I would love to taste that and experience those vegetables. But I love how you brought it down to, this is not just about eating plants, but how can we eat plants that are accessible, sustainable, local, made for where we live, our region, the tropical area that we are, and start to utilize what we have. Because as we know, with the world changing, it's what we're going to
Yep.
have to do anyway. So you have
Absolutely.
like one step ahead of everybody else. So thank you very much. And hopefully someday I'll get to try some of those amazing vegetables and different legumes. And we're going to talk about legumes in a little bit.
Oh,
But
my
first,
favorite.
let me ask you about, you said that friends and family, they're starting to incorporate more plant-based foods. Do you feel like you've been a positive influence for some of your friends and family to start integrating a more plant-based diet into their lives? And in general, do you find that Filipinos struggle with more plant-based foods, or once they learn about it, are they able to integrate it pretty seamlessly?
I hope I've been a good influence to them. In the beginning, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's Juana and her veggies. But after a while, they'd private message me and they'd be like, so I bought this thing. How do I cook it? Can you send me a recipe for it? And I just started just among my own friend group that just started becoming like I was the veggie person. So and now everybody like I've had friends who tried. So in Mess Any Misses, we have a 30-day plant-based challenge, and it's like it's 30 recipes for 30 days for lunch and dinner. So I would give it. I'd send it to them, and they tried it, and slowly people are becoming more open to it. Several talks for corporate wellness for people for big companies, and it's the questions that I get for them from them are always like, well, I can't find vegetables when I'm on the go. I can't find vegetables when I'm eating out at the office. I live too far away to bring a doggy bag. The food's not going to be good when I get there. So it is a struggle to find it. And if you're eating out, if you're working, if you're at the office all day. And then there's also the flavor profile that people are looking for still with meat. They're always going to try to compare the meat with the vegetables. I always tell them it's a totally different thing. Of course, with my recipes, I try my best to season everything the way I would season meat or lamb or pork, but it's not going to be the same because meat in itself has its own flavor, right? I think it's still a bit difficult. It's still expensive here to find something plant based. Just the other day, I left some money with my sister to take my kids out, and it wasn't a lot of money. I said, "Sorry, I don't have a lot to leave you today, but here, just in case the kids want snacks, here's some money." And of course, being the fun aunt, she got pizza and like fries and stuff like that. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't leave enough. Do I need to give you more? Do I need to pay you back? And she said, No, I've got change. Everything fit. And I said, My gosh, that's why people choose fast food
Yeah.
because it's so cheap and the kids are happy and it's accessible. But that a switch just sort of went off. I said, this is why like people aren't gonna buy the veggie burger or they're not gonna buy the grilled hummus platter, at the restaurant because it's expensive. A pizza, I mean, there's a vegetarian pizza, but it's still quite junky, right?
Yeah.
It's cheap. So it is hard. We have a lot of plant-based alternatives coming out now, and compared to the real thing, sausages and things like that, it's expensive still.
Hmm. Well, the
So
good
definitely
news
a
is that
struggle.
there's a lot of companies, they're racing to make some of these alternatives more accessible. But I think also the work that you're doing, just educating people about, hey, this is what we have here, the local produce, this is how we can use the local produce instead of letting that go by the wayside, be like, oh, we don't eat that. That's just what people from
Yeah.
the provinces in Panama would call it el interior, people from the not from the city, that's what they eat. We don't eat that here. So I think it's all about education, but also the world is changing, so eventually I
And
think
I
it's
mean,
going
like,
to be in the forefront.
yeah, I think here, like, a big struggle is that's it. There's a lot of people not from the city. They come in from the provinces and they're used to cooking the vegetables in certain ways. And that's even people in the city, we're used to eating certain vegetables certain ways. And when you see it, you're like, oh, that's only good for this dish. So, what I try to do, in the cookbook, is to create different recipes. We've got like pesto, which is an Italian dish. We've got burritos. We've got kimbap, Korean food, and you're using the vegetables in a different way. So a big part of the mission of Mesa de Mrs. is to get people to see it uh, different from how it's culturally been perceived or eaten.
Yeah. And even what you said earlier, which it requires a paradigm shift, because
It
if you're just
does.
like, oh, I want everything to taste exactly the same, it's, your brain is going to have a certain expectation. You're going to be disappointed, but it's all about, it's still going to be delicious. It's just going to be different. It's going
Yes.
to be a whole different way of thinking about food rather than here in the American culture. Traditionally, it's like, okay, what meat are we going to have? And then you pick the sides to go with it. That's
Yeah.
when people get used to that way of planning meals. It's very difficult for them when they transition to plant-based. Instead, what I tell people, think about what kind of flavors do you want to experience. So you're saying, okay, do you want to have like the Italian flavors? Do you want to have the Asian
Absolutely
flavors? What
it.
are the flavors you want to have? And then you can start to put together the meal, the recipes that you want to have to incorporate those flavors. So it's just a whole different way of thinking about food.
Yeah, that is absolutely it. I always say to people, this piece of meat hasn't tastes like nothing, like if you don't season it. So if there's something people need to invest in, it's a whole bunch of spices. You've got
Mm-hmm.
your Mexican, Italian, Spanish, everything to make the food taste, uh, get that taste experience, right? That's really what it's all about, I think.
Yes. Okay, so we've already started talking about your cookbook, but were you surprised by its success? And it looks like it got an award, like a worldwide award. That's amazing. So tell me about that.
Um, you know, this book, so this is the actual book. Thank you for downloading the Kindle, but it's not very thick. It's priced at 250 pesos, which is five, $3 or $4. So it's priced so that everybody can buy it, and it was sold online in all the bookstores, and it's really to show people. I really wanted it to be accessible, so that's why it's not expensive. The recipes inside are at a very, very, very low budget for a family of four. And I just wanted, my goal was like, I hope someone buys the book. Period. That was the goal. And then one day my publisher said, look, you've been nominated. And I thought it was a joke. I thought it was spam. Um, but it turns out there's an awarding body from Europe called the Gourmand Awards, and it's a huge, big cookbook thing. And so I found out I was on a short list of, I think we were like 14 people from all over the world with these beautiful cookbooks. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm just glad I was nominated. I can't believe it." And then a couple months later, I got a message. It said like you won in your category. So we're out of the category. There's like three. So you're like three winners in each category. And I just kept rubbing my eyes. I said, "Are you serious? Like my book, this little like." It's so pink. It doesn't even look like a real
I
cookbook.
love
It's
the
so
pink though.
pink.
I love the pink.
Because here, like people here, like we love color. Like we're in the tropics, we like color. And here they're like, I said, I don't want to put my face in the cookbook. They're like, no, in the Philippines you have to put your face. Like it's like about selling yourself as a personality. And I'm like, no, I just want my vegetables. In the end, they were like, just do it. And when I Googled the other books, and there's nobody on the cover. It's like this beautiful, like vegetable dish. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I win? And I thought, wow, they must have really read the book. They weren't like judging it by the cover. They actually read it. So I was completely floored. Um, that this little pink book, which wasn't meant for the world to see, was seen, and that people in Europe, all over the world, are now reading about our alugbati, our kangkong, our local plants. So just thinking about that, I was able to make a tiny, tiny contribution for that. It's still shocking for me every day to realize that. And you should see some of these books, man. I mean, there was one that was a German book. It looked like everything was foraged from the Black Forest. Just really like wow, like it's in a bird's nest. And another one was from France and beautiful vegetables grown by the side of Brittany. So everything's a little saltier, a little sweet. I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I here? But yeah, amazing. I'm still shocked
Oh my
every time I think about it to
goodness.
this day.
Well, congratulations. I have chills and my eyes are tearing up because to me that
Oh,
means that your spirit, your energy was right for this. It means that you put that right energy of giving and of love into this book and they were
yeah,
able to feel that. That's why that happened, you know? And as I
yeah,
read through the book, I can tell that too because I can tell that you care so much and you put so much attention into researching and learning about these vegetables and creating things that are accessible for people. So, congratulations. I think it's
thank
amazing.
you.
Hey, y'all. I can't believe it's already September, which means back to school and busy schedules. It's time again to pack those lunch bags, shuttle everyone around to sports practices, and do your best to make a nutritious yet fast dinner. I wouldn't be able to survive without batch cooking on the weekends. I always make a big pot of beans, a whole grain such as brown rice, and often steam some potatoes. I use these ingredients along with fresh or frozen veggies throughout the week when making different meals. However, it's really the sauce that brings everything together. You must have a delicious sauce. That's why I love Bernie Wild's Adventure Sauce. It's perfect for those weeks that you just didn't get around to it, or one of the kids ate all of the cashew cheese sauce in one sitting. It's a bit spicy, but not too much, and it's got a pleasant tang and a subtle creaminess. Plus, it comes from a cool new vegan business that you're going to love to support. If you haven't already tried a bottle of Bernie's, I really want you to give it a try. If you're feeling ready to give it a go, it's called Bernie Wild's Adventure Sauce, and you have a good reason to grab yourself a bottle or two right now. My listeners get 20% off their first order of $20 or more and free shipping. Just use the code Dr. Yami. That's DRYAMI. Follow the link in the show notes or go to www.berniewilds.com. After you taste it, I want to know what you think about the sauce. Do you love it as much as I do? Go get yourself a couple of bottles of Bernie Wild's Adventure Sauce right now and get your 20% off and free shipping by using the code Dr. Yami. Enjoy!
Thank you.
Okay, so now I want to talk about beans because you know
Yes, my
how
favorite.
much I love beans. I'm a bean pusher and I want more people to eat beans. So I'm really fascinated by the master's thesis topic that you chose. So tell me about it. Why did you choose this topic?
This links back to one of your questions about a cultural struggle. So in the Philippines, people believe that eating beans will raise your uric acid and raise your sensitivity to gout. So, as a doctor, do you know this to be true?
No.
No, right? Like, I brought this up with my supervisors, and they were like, "That's not a thing. It's not a thing." And I go, "It's a thing here. Like, it's a huge thing here."
Interesting.
People across all social demographics, from very wealthy to those with not much money, believe that. They're like, "Oh, if I eat mongo as mung bean," they're like, "Oh no, I can't eat that because it's gonna spike. I've got a uric acid problem. It's gonna spike my gout." And we grew up believing that. Everybody grew up believing that. So that's why we don't eat beans in this country. And, as people who are plant-based, beans are our go-to for protein. They're, the biggest source. So I said that's a really, really big challenge. And about 6 months into being plant-based, I said, okay, I can't keep buying imported lima beans and lentils from the States and Australia. It's expensive after a while, so we gotta have something local here. And when I started looking, I found we have a lot of local beans, but they're just not produced in big quantities because people don't eat them. And when you ask the farmers, the producers, why don't you produce a lot of this? And they're like, oh no, because it causes uric acid, so you can't eat too much of that anyway. It is a rampant belief. However, doctors here know that it's not true. In fact, one of the governing bodies, like a big hospital here, put out a pamphlet that says, no, beans do not cause uric acid. Like they had to write something just to show people. And people don't know that. They don't believe it. They're like, yeah, no, I don't believe you. It's
Well, and like the biggest irony of the whole situation is that it's the meat that's leading to gout
yes.
exacerbations and increased uric
Yes.
acid. So like my
So
mind
if
is like all like twisted up right now. Like, wait, how is this happening?
you and every like scholar I've spoken to, they're like, are you serious? But I actually, after a bit of research, I actually think it might be something in Asia. It's an Asian thing. So
Mm.
there's a huge study done in China that shows that beans actually combat gout. Can you believe that? Like they proved quite the opposite. I think the study was over 30,000 people in China just to prove that. But in the study, it also revealed that even some doctors in I think it was done in China, there's still hesitation of doctors to prescribe more beans for more because of that lingering thought that it just might spike your gout or your uric acid. So I think it might be an Asian thing, but definitely in the Philippines, and I can speak confidently about that. It's a big deal here, why you can't have it. And so I thought, well, if we're taking out pork, which is the number one preferred meat here, we need to replace it. So my study centered on replacing, it chose three legumes, black-eyed peas, which grow here. It's called paayap. Um, oh my gosh. Pigeon pea, which I'm sure you have in the Caribbean, which grows a lot here as well. So, and taking that and replacing it, doing a study like the cost, nutritional value, what would that entail? And in the end, my winner bean was the cowpea because of the high protein content, the iron, the minerals in it. And I found out that pork doesn't even have that much iron in it. We fortify it here when they're making pork products. And it comes out a
Wait,
lot
wait, 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 wait,
cheaper.
wait. Back up. I was still thinking about cowpeas. Now
Yep, I
you
knew you
just
did
said,
that.
now you just said, I want you to repeat this because I don't want anybody to miss it. Okay, you just said y'all have to fortify the pigs with iron so that the
We
meat
have,
has more iron.
yes, we fortify our pork products
So you
here.
they put it
They're
into the pork.
They put it into the pork because
Wow.
the iron content of pork here is just not that high. So you're eating kind of like a mutant hot dog with extra fortified things when you can have your black-eyed peas at a fraction of the price with a higher iron content.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you said that because there is this assumption when it comes to meat that meat is superior because that's quote the natural way, right? And so it's got all your iron, it's got all your, it's got everything you need. Don't worry about it. It would be unnatural to not eat meat. But a lot of people don't know that when it comes to a lot of these animal products, either they have to give vitamins directly to the animals because the animals aren't eating the way that they used to anymore,
Yes,
or they have to put it into the product afterwards. So thank you for bringing that up. We do
absolutely.
have in Panama, one of my favorite beans in the entire world are pigeon peas.
Yes, me
I
too.
can't, I think
I
I
love
found
them.
them once here in the States and it was canned and it wasn't quite the same because I like it, cooked the way that we cook it. But they're so delicious and they're so earthy. They've
Yes,
got that,
nutty. They've got that.
oh,
I
so
love it.
good
The
with
texture.
rice and some avocado. So amazing. So
Oh, you eat it with avocado.
yeah, we have avocado in Panama. So I'm just picturing my white rice with my pigeon peas and some sliced avocado and a few slices of tomato. That's it. That's all you need. You're good to
Oh,
go.
that sounds so good. I actually have a recipe for pigeon peas, and I call it Cadios Caribbean style. And it's got like peppers, it's got coconut milk, it's a little
Yum.
spicy, it's got paprika. It's so good, and we serve it with a side of like grilled bananas.
Oh,
Oh, so
yes,
good, and
yes.
rice.
Yes, our plátano. Yeah. Well, in Panama we eat like super like plain. My husband's always like, why is y'all's food so bland? Like we barely put anything. We just put the sofrito. Like it's just like the,
Yeah,
culantro, which is like the cilantro and the onion and the tomato. And
garlic and
then we just
onion.
everything goes in that, everything. Like no matter what you make. And so then the beans are pretty plain. And then we got our white rice and then we just so we eat very, very simple. But those beans are just so flavorful and yummy. So it's
And
really nice to
here
hear.
we have 68 varieties across the country. So they're not just
Wow.
we've got the dark ones, green ones, marbled ones, and in every region they sort of when you go to the different regions, they cook it in all sorts of different ways, but a majority of the population doesn't know about it or they forget about it when they come to the city. But they're delicious, one of my favorites as well.
I just thought of a project that I have to do. I have to go to the Philippines and then we're going to go through
Yes.
every place and taste all the different pigeon peas.
Yes.
It's going to be, we're going to
Oh,
find a funder for
it's
this
so
project.
good. We will.
That's
Oh my goodness.
amazing.
Oh, and my last bean was the rice bean.
Oh,
So the rice bean, that actually came up as the highest in iron.
oh,
So the iron content of rice bean was much, much higher than pork. Yeah,
interesting.
and people here they serve our one bean dish, which is mongo. They serve it with pork. It's the beans and the pork, and they go, I can't eat that because that's gonna cause my gout to spike. I'm like, you can't eat the pork part, eat the bean part.
Oh my gosh, I'm dying. I'm dying. Okay, what is a rice bean like? What does that look like
A
and what does it
rice
taste like?
bean, um, a rice bean is quite close in texture and flavor to a mung bean if you've ever
Oh,
had
yes.
it.
Hmm.
They're long, like a grain of rice with a white part in the middle. So kind of it can become mushy. So they use it a lot in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, in curries. So that is a little bit harder to find even here. So the price is a bit higher, but out in the provinces, they do have that a lot. Here, the most produced one is the black-eyed pea,
Hmm.
which it grows everywhere. But a big challenge here is people don't know the names for it. So in every region, there's a different name for it. At some in some supermarkets, I actually see it and they go, "Oh, that's white bean." I go, "No, no, no, no. That's so much more than a white bean. You don't understand how much nutrients there are in this." So I think that's a big struggle when you tell people about it. They don't understand just how good they are for you
Yeah.
and how valuable they are for your diet.
And how yummy. They're just really yummy. Black eyed peas
Yummy,
are very
delicious.
yummy as well. And they also have that really earthy, rich flavor too. They have a lot of flavor to them. So,
They
what
do.
has surprised you the most about the research that you've done on this topic?
Um, I think it would be how affordable it actually is. Um, when I did this for a year, like the research was over the year, and I had like highs and lows. Like at some point, I was like, oh my gosh, no, it's not going to be affordable. Or like it's when you're reading about the digestive process and the true ileal protein and all this scientific stuff, right? And the journals, and at some point you're just sort of scared, like, oh no, oh no, oh no, it's not gonna work. Like my thesis is wrong, and I'm gonna have to switch gears. What surprised me was like, you know what? I was right. I was right from the beginning. There is protein. It can be a substitute. It's gonna work. So like that was that was I wouldn't say surprising, but more like a relief because you just know, or I just knew in my heart and my gut, like this has to work. It everything points towards yes, it can be a substitute, but as you're going through that research, big cohort studies, you're like, oh no, it might not really. So, and it works. It does work.
I love it.
There is proof. Like financially, it makes sense. Nutritionally, it makes sense. And when you look at just overall health and well-being, it can lower cholesterol. It lowers blood sugar. Um, it, it just makes so much sense. And when you look at it as like a whole picture, that big problem of protein just kind of goes down because you realize you don't need that much anyway, not as much as they say you do. So that at first it was a glaring problem. Oh no, Filipinos are going to be malnourished if I tell them that, what is pushing beans for all these people. But it turns out you don't need that much. And the vitamins, the phytochemicals, the fiber, all of those other properties become more important when you're looking at the grand scale of things. So,
Yeah.
yes, that was the most surprising thing. When I finished, I was like, whew.
Big
Oh my gosh,
relief.
thank God. Yes.
How about did you look into the differences in sustainability? Like I thought you had mentioned something about comparing it to pork as far as sustainability. Did you look at that as well?
I know as my project was limited, there was a word limit to it, so I couldn't go very, very deep into that, but just scratch the surface. And what I found was so when you plant legumes, it has a lot of benefits for the soil. It has nitrogen fixing properties. When you're using it, if you intercrop it with other things, here we do it with rice and other vegetables, it actually decreases your need to buy artificial inputs such as potassium and nitrates. So I looked just very, very briefly into that. We couldn't go into it as much. But the overall idea is that by planting these with your crops, you're actually you need less fertilizer. You need to spend less
Mhm.
on these artificial things. Your soil will be healthier, your nutrient cycling, new bacteria in the soil. So just as an overarching idea, adding legumes not just to the diet but to the farming system will eventually bring down the costs and enrich the soil that it's in. The only issue here is that it's labor intensive, like picking the beans and all of that. That's the only issue. But that in turn that generates jobs, right? You need more people to pick. You need more people to harvest and plant. So that eventually will become, or I hope that the paper somehow becomes useful to people to influence policy and like looking more into that. There are a few studies that have been done locally by local researchers about how it does benefit the soil, but I think looking into that deeper and like further study into that will really help in the promotion of planting and eating these beans.
I love it. Well, I think it would be amazing if you trigger like this whole cultural revolution in the Philippines and the people started
It
eating
would be.
beans after all these years of thinking it's going to give them gout. Like that would be
Yeah. Oh my
amazing.
goodness.
Well, I'd love to know what your proudest accomplishment is thus far and what do you hope to accomplish in your space in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow. Well, for now, it's the cookbook, I think. That is something I'm incredibly proud of. I hope to write a couple more books with no budget constraint this time, just so I can go nuts with like the ingredients and what I put into there. I think something I'd like to see in the next 5 to 10 years is exactly what you mentioned, an uptick in consumption of beans and something that we can spearhead or just to have more people who are in policy actually listen, and just if I could give like some input into that, that would be like an incredible accomplishment for me, to be able to help with that.
You have to make a vision board. Like half of the vision board has to
It-
be like pictures of beans, and then
Yeah.
like a picture of the country of the Philippines, and then you smiling. I can just see your
Yeah,
vision board
and
here already.
yeah, and getting more farmers to plant it, getting it into more stores. Um, I tried with a few stores bringing it in, but the supply just wasn't enough. There's transport issues, things that just as an infrastructure just
Yeah.
need to be worked on. Like our whole agricultural infrastructure just needs a little more help. But in terms of just getting more bean dishes into restaurants
Yeah.
or on people's tables, that would be such an amazing thing to see.
I love it. What do you wish more people knew?
That beans don't cause uric acid.
Oh man.
I I wish more people knew that or believed it. That's my number one.
Me too.
It's
I
crazy,
wish
right?
that
Like
for you as well.
when I tell you, you're like, no, no. But here, everybody, talk
That
to a
is
guy on the street.
so
You, do-
fascinating.
it's crazy. Yeah,
All
it's
right,
a
so
cultural thing.
yeah, I mean, I've never heard of that, so thank you for sharing that because that gives you so much perspective. Like I do have families that are Filipino, and I've never heard that before, but that might be their belief as well. Who knows? I've never asked
Yeah,
them, but it's very
could
interesting.
try.
All right, switching gears one more time. Do you have a morning routine? It happens to be morning where you are right now.
Yes.
If so, tell us about it.
Yeah, wake up, I have my tea or my matcha, and I walk 6K.
Nice.
That's my morning routine. If I'm not dropping the kids off at school, I won't eat breakfast till a little bit later, to like 10 or 11, just because I don't know, I can't eat too much in the day. But yeah, it's quite simple. Exercise is so important, just to keep moving, get your steps in. So I try to get that out of the way as early as possible.
Do you walk outside?
I do. I walk outside. We had really bad lockdowns here where, you couldn't leave your house. You couldn't go
Wow.
out in the street for months.
Wow.
So when they did start allowing people out into nature again, it was like, and I don't take it for granted anymore. I was like, nah, I'll just walk on the treadmill. I'm going to go to the gym. But now, if I can be out, I'm out as much as possible. You need that vitamin D
Yes.
to be like triggered from the sun. Just being near trees and nature, it just makes a difference for your mood. It just elevates everything,
Yes, and being out in
brings up your
nature.
frequency.
Yeah, we know that being out in nature is health promoting as well for the microbiome and for so
Absolutely.
many other reasons, decreases our stress levels. So I love that you have that.
Yeah.
Well, Juana, this has been such a treat and such a pleasure. I'm super proud of
Same.
you. I'm
Oh,
just
thank you, Dr.
really
Yummy. Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
impressed with everything you're doing and so grateful. So grateful that you're doing the work that you're doing. I mean, it's so powerful and any way that I can help you, please reach out. But I'm sure listeners would love to know how to connect with you, how to grab a copy of your cookbook. For my listeners that are Filipino that would like to maybe learn more about the nonprofit, tell us where we can find all of that.
So the book is downloadable on Amazon, available for Kindle, and you can check messanymisses.com for all the recipes. It's under maintenance now because we're uploading all this new stuff, but soon it'll be up. And we're on Instagram, always on Instagram at messanymisses, and you can click on the recipes there. So, but Dr. Yami, I mean, I have you to thank for just motivating me to keep going, especially with my kids. I remember something you told me, like they're not going to be mutants, they're going to grow. Like I always remember that. So I have you to thank for just keeping me going when, I doubt myself sometimes. Like sometimes I think, going plant-based for me and my husband, never mind, we're full grown, doesn't matter if it's a massive failure, we're all grown up, it doesn't matter. But it's like my kids, if I fail with this,
Yes.
that's a big problem. Um, so thank you for just motivating me to just stay on track and reassuring me. I have you to thank for that.
It's my pleasure. And remember that you're giving them the greatest gift ever. And I know that you're a mom, so you're going to feel doubtful sometimes and afraid, but you're doing a fantastic job. So keep it up. All right. So last thing, I want you to leave us with your favorite tip for other plant-based parents feeding their children. How can they make veggies taste amazing?
Oh, buy an array of herbs and spices. Have your kids also expose the kids to different flavors at a young age, because that way they're not going to just be used to one certain taste. Get them tasting different things. I think that's one thing we have with my kids. We say, okay, what are we having tonight? We'll say, let's have Korean, and that just means Korean taste. Right? It doesn't mean like we're having the chicken wings or the bulgogi. We're having Korean flavor. So that's a big thing. Invest in your spices. They're going to last a long time, and your different sauces. I know you were traveling with your sauce
Yes.
all over the UK. So that's a big thing. Different sauces, flavors, spices. Invest in that, and that'll make food more interesting for your kids, and food will become a concept. Taste is a concept,
Yes.
and not a piece of meat for
Yes.
your kids.
Amazing, fantastic tip, wonderful information. Thank you again so much, Juana. I want to
Thank you,
wish you
Dr.
the best of
Yami.
luck with everything, and I hope that you have a very fantastic day.
You too. Thank you.
Hey, veggie lover. I hope that you loved today's episode. Will you take a second and do me a huge favor? Please subscribe to my podcast so that you never miss an episode. You're the reason I'm here, and I want to share it all with you. Thank you for listening, and have a plantastic day.